Good morning, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. Today is July 1st, and it is a Thursday. Happy July to everyone. It's July 2nd in Australia, so always a day ahead. So, July promises to be a very interesting, in quotes, month. Of course, today we have an opposition between Mars and Saturn. Oppositions bring awareness. Oppositions bring a certain amount of tension. Mars is a planet of action, the planet of go, 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 and Saturn is the planet of rules. Stop, stop, stop. And so we can feel like we're being pulled in two directions, or we're driving down the road with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Now, this tension will not last very long, because in 2 days, on July 3rd, Mars makes a square to Uranus. And of course, Uranus is in orb of a very powerful T-square between Uranus and Mars and Saturn. So, just a couple of words about this. We also have, but let me talk about this next, and then I'll go back to the opposition. We also have a last quarter square of the Sun and the Moon today. The Moon being in Aries, the Sun being in Cancer. Last quarter squares are crisis in consciousness. It is part of the lunation cycle. This happens every month. The thing that's special about this particular lunation cycle is that it did start with that new moon eclipse that we had in Gemini. Remember, we had a new moon eclipse at 20 degrees of Gemini. Mercury was in a very close conjunction to that in Gemini, and Mercury at the time was retrograde. Mercury has since gone direct. It went direct on, I believe it was the 22nd of June, but it is still in its shadow. So it doesn't actually get out of its shadow until the 7th of July. And so that's really when the information is going to really start to flow. However, this opposition between Mars and Saturn brings an awareness around what creative actions need to be taken in order to structure this sort of new world. I hate to use the word new world order, but it really kind of is a new world order, in that back in December we had a conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter, the two social planets. The conjunctions between Saturn and Jupiter happen every 20 years, and they pretty much determine what the next 20 years is going to be like. And that occurred in the sign of Aquarius. In fact, it occurred in the first degree of Aquarius. What makes it significant to this opposition, besides the fact that Saturn is in Aquarius, is that the initial conjunction of this cycle, the initial conjunction of the Mars-Saturn cycle, which is a 2-year cycle, of which we are at the halfway point. We are at the point where what was planted at that time comes to fruition. Significant in that time is that conjunction occurred in March 31st, 2020, right after we went into lockdown with COVID. And it occurred at 1 degree of Aquarius. And that was actually the Saturn-Uranus conjunction that occurred in March, was somewhat of a prelude to the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that occurred on the solstice in December, winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. And actually, we just had the summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere and the winter solstice in the summer the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, right? So all of these times are connected. And in 2 days, and now, right now, that third leg of the T-square, Uranus in Taurus, is putting pressure. And, of course, Uranus in Taurus is the waking up of the earth, the awakening of our connection to the earth. And as we stand here, although today, well, it's pretty hot now. Yesterday, when I stood here and I checked, and we have, and I'll just show it to you, we have a one of these outside thermometers. Yesterday when I stood here, it was 100. Now, that was not the technical, I don't think that was the technical temperature here. I think it was closer to, the technical temperature was closer to like 93 or 95 or something like that. But in front of my office, it was 100 degrees. Now, we do on occasion get to that, and it's not that unusual, but it doesn't generally stay around. I think today it's going to be a little bit cooler, but as I'm standing here in the sun, it feels pretty damn hot. But it is not as muggy, and the wind is blowing, and that's always helpful around here. But I know that there are places where it reached the highest highs. I know in the Pacific Northwest, this heat dome that they spoke of is a once in a 1,000-year occurrence. Of course, the way things are going, a once in a 1,000-year occurrence might happen again in 2 years. Because of climate change. It is imperative that we foster a new relationship with Mother Earth. The way that we live on this planet is unsustainable. And we're going to need a lot of creative solutions on how to live in harmony with Mother Nature. And this go, 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 I'm going to do my thing, damn the torpedoes kind of thing, manifest destiny, extraction, and desecration of our environment, and quite literally shitting where we eat, is not going to cut it. And so we stand at this point, this inflection point, and with Mars making a square to Uranus, and then later in the month, next week actually, Venus goes through the same gauntlet of making an opposition to Saturn and squaring Uranus. Things need to change. We need to change from within ourselves. And we're going to have to start getting along. We're going to have to start taking all this stuff that separates us, all this mind crap that's separating us, and move into our hearts and build a better world, which is more alignment with Mother Nature and more in alignment with coming from a place of compassion and humanitarian endeavor. That's what's ahead of us, guys. But as always, we have our opportunities, right? Mother Nature is calling to us. Let's listen to that. The other day I was at a gentleman's home, somebody that Michael met through buying herbs from him. And he was talking about that everything that you need, Mother Nature is right there to give it to you. So, what can you do to help this process along? Well, you can surround yourself in more nature. You can create more nature around you. Now, some people live in apartments with no access to the outside. I grew up on the, third floor walk up. I mean, we did have a backyard, but I wouldn't actually call it anything a functional backyard, in the city. There was maybe 3 trees on the block, which were nice. But when I left, when we finally sold my mother's house, I don't think any of those trees were still alive. I think all those trees had been cut down. So we need to green the spaces up. We need to utilize Mother Nature's wisdom. And we need to start connecting and talking to the animals, talking to... and there's above, I don't know if you can see the little goldfinch on top of the feeder there. A little bit of sunshine. So that's what I want to say about today. Check out my July astrology. It's like 50 minutes long, and all I talk about is July 1st to July 10th because that's how much shit is going on. You can also check out my Kabbalah video. That's also really good, I think. And share those with people if you can. Like them if you can. We need to get the word out of how important this is. I think people know, but I think that if you think that the information that I share is important, perhaps you can spread the word, as it were. All right, guys, have yourself a great day. Be careful out there, okay? This is a very stressful time. People are under a lot of stress. And you and I may understand why. Saturn and is opposite Mars, and the sun and the moon are at this crisis in consciousness point where we want to individuate and we want to break free. We know that because you listen to me, but other people have no idea why they're feeling the way they're feeling. So give them a wide berth, please. All right. And just one little more thing for those of you who are concerned. I went to see Mom in the hospital yesterday. Her legs, she had cellulitis. That's why she had the fever. Her legs are looking much better. She's much calmer than she was. So whatever was making her agitated, I think it was the fever and perhaps the infection that was doing that, has quelled a bit. Although I have to say, as difficult as it's been taking care of her, I really do miss her. But I don't miss the crazy old lady who was screaming at me. I miss the mother that I know. But she's in good hands. The nurses there. She's actually at Toby Hospital in Wareham. The nurses have been the nurses and the nurses' aides and and everybody's been so kind to her and so sweet. And I really appreciate that. So thank you all for your good wishes. And I am looking for a rehab center for her. And I'm going to request if you can all perhaps put an intention out that we find the best rehab facility close to home where she's going to be well taken care of, because it's always sort of a crapshoot with those things. So if you could just keep her in your heart and mind, it's greatly appreciated. All right, guys, much love. Have yourself a beautiful day. Be careful out there, and spend some time in nature. Even if I know some places it's wicked, wicked hot, but or maybe you can even help nature a little bit in those places where there's drought and stuff. Maybe leave out some water for the animals, so that they can quench their thirst, because they live out in it, right? We can go in the house sometimes and put on an air conditioner if we have one, or put on a fan, but they don't have that option. So, okay, guys, much love. Take care.